If you're planning on purchasing any property anytime soon, then the agent that you're working with is probably going to ask you to sign this document. This document is an exclusive buyer brokerage agreement. If you have no idea what this is, then you probably want to pay attention to this video. I'm going to be explaining it in detail, and we're getting into it right now. Hey, what's up everybody? My name is Otho Hampton, and I'm a licensed agent here down in Hinesville, Georgia. And if you're looking for a channel that's going to give you all the information that you could possibly need about living in South Georgia, then this is a channel definitely for you. I get reach outs all the time about people wanting to understand or wanting to know what it is to live down in South Georgia. If this is you, feel free to call or text me with your questions to let me know how I can better serve you. All right, so check it out. The purpose of this video today is to get you as a buyer comfortable with a situation that is all too well avoided by you guys. When I say avoided, I mean when you hear the words contract or document when it pertains to anything that needed to be signed. I mean, you guys kind of freeze up. They're like, get cold feet. And the document that we're going to be explaining today is the exclusive buyer brokerage agreement. It's a document that serves as a protector for you as the buyer. Excuse me. A protector for you as the buyer and for the agent as well. It outlines certain criteria that you guys should want in your agent, and you should want to hold your agent accountable, for the things listed in this document. The buyer brokerage agreement is basically a legal document that is going to solidify that agent working for you on your behalf. Hopefully this video can make you a little bit more familiar with the document, and when you hear it, you won't freeze up so quick. And secondly, I hope it serves as an understanding to want to expect the best from your agent. So sometimes you'll get an agent that is going to ask you to sign this document first and foremost. That is usually the practice.
You too. Good evening.
That is usually the practice when it comes to securing the BBA. But sometimes it's okay to maybe show one or two properties for some agents. That's not across the board, of course. But for some agents, we do maybe show one or two properties before we get into a BBA situation. More so because, we have buyers out there that want to window shop. They call them tire kickers, for lack of a better term. They want to go from agent to agent and see who, basically has the time to show them what it is that they want, all the while already having an agent or being in a agreement situation with another agent. I've been in situations where that has been the case. I currently recently was in a situation with a customer where I was requesting some information to put inside the BBA, and basically they were giving me like not the cold shoulder, but being very, very reluctant as to what it is that they what I ask or what I ask them to provide. And in situations like that, it kind of it could very well fall into the lines that they are working with another agent, but didn't want to come out and say it or whatnot. But normally when a person or a customer is asked to sign a BBA or whatever, what have you, either they are or they aren't. You see what I'm saying? Once you break it down to what the BBA entails, it's kind of self-explanatory. Those that are reluctant to want to sign one, more than likely they already are in an agreement with another agent, or they have another agent in mind that they want to work with, and they just want to use you to open a door or whatever the case may be. So my limit, I would say maybe 2. On that third one, we have to go ahead and sit down and talk about some things. If you do want me to represent you as your agent, then if the relationship is going to continue, then this is going to have to be in place. So I'm gonna go ahead and get into the document. If you like what you're hearing so far, go ahead and like and subscribe. Make sure you go ahead and hit that notification bell so you'll be notified when the next video drops. So without further ado, flip my screen to the exclusive buyer brokerage agreement. And immediately upon reading the document, you see that it says that the state law prohibits a broker from representing a buyer as a client without first entering into a written agreement with the buyer. Self-explanatory. If you want to continue on to see house 4, 5, 6, 7, 10, 12, if it gets that far, then we're going to have to first backtrack a little bit before it gets there and make sure we get the proper documentation in place so I can be within legal standards. So if you take a look right here, you see under letter A, key terms and conditions. Number 1, the exclusive buyer brokerage agreement, the exclusive buyer brokerage engagement agreement, It says that for any consideration in the mutual promises contained herein and other good and valuable consideration, the undersigned buyer, buyers, and the undersigned broker do hereby enter into this exclusive buyer engagement agreement on the terms and conditions set forth herein. Layman's terms, you're accepting me as your agent. That's it. All right, number 2, the term. Now, some people figure that this is a lifetime, lifetime commitment or whatever the case may be, which it is not. There's a set term. It can be 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. It could be 6 months. Usually, oh man, these calls keep coming through. Usually for my out-of-country clients or out-of-state clients, I go for a longer term, just so that we can have time to actually begin the process and see if it's a good fit, if they have time to extend that long. Usually no more than about 4 to 5 months tops, depending on the situations, case by case basis. But normally, if it's about 60 days, that should be more than enough time for me to prove that I am doing my part when it comes to trying to find you a property. So the term of this agreement shall begin on the date of whatever date that is, and shall continue through the date of whichever date that we see fit or we come to agreement on. As the same may extend by written agreement and the parties, or as provided herein. All right, number 3, the agency and brokerage. The following are types of agency relationships not offered by the broker. You see where it says seller agency, sub-agency, buyer agency, tenant agency, designated agency, landlord agency, and dual agency. All right, so what we'll mostly be dealing with is the top 4: seller agency, buyer agency, designated agency, and dual agency. Sub-agency, tenant, and landlord agency, those things more so fall along the lines of property management, and I have no dealings in property management. Seller agency is self-explanatory. If you're selling a home, you want me to list it for you, we will enter into a listing agreement. Buyer agency, that would be you. If you are coming to the area and you want me to help you find a home, you want to hire me as your agent, of course. That would be considered by agency. Designated agency would be a situation where I myself and another agent, we're of the same brokerage, and we're working with a customer or a client, and one is selling the house and another is buying the house. That would be a designated agents. That would be a designated agency situation, or the selling agent and the buying agent is of the same brokerage. The house has been listed with another agent, and I have a buyer, and we're both sharing the agency. That would be a designated agency situation. Dual agency would be when if I was to list a home for a client and you as the buyer want to purchase the home that I have listed, then I would have to disclose to my client, who is the seller, and you as well, that you are and they are okay with me representing both parties in the transaction. And that definitely would have to be in writing. Now, when it comes down to number 4, the commission, it says that the buyer's commission obligation in purchasing real property. The buyer agrees to pay the broker the commission set forth below. The buyer agrees to pay the broker the commission set forth below at the closing of the contract to purchase, as the term is hereinafter defined, the term of the agreement, minus any commission paid to the broker by either the seller's broker or the seller. The buyer acknowledges that the commission, if any, being offered by the seller's broker is usually set forth in the multiple listing service in which the property may be listed. All right, so with this one, the commission. The commission is usually a agreement between the agents. Now, that doesn't always mean an even, 50-50 split. The listing agent could only give 2.4, 2.3, sometimes 2% to the buyer's agent who brings a qualified buyer. At that point, the buyer would be leaned upon to make up that difference. Now, if that agent that you're working with says that their commission for finding a home is 3%, 4%, 5%, 6%, then if the selling agent is only offering 3% or below, then of course the buyer will have to pay that missing percentage to equal the buying agent's commission. Sometimes that isn't the case. There can be a mutual agreement between the agents that, okay, they're offering the 2%, so they only accept the 2% from the sale of the home, and they don't ask their client to make up that missing percentage, whether that be 1% to 5%. 1 to 4%. But it all depends on the agents involved. C, the separate commission on a lease. If a buyer leases property or enters into a lease purchase contract or a lease with an option to purchase agreement, during this agreement, buyer shall the broker a separate leasing commission. If you were to go purchase a property during that protected period, then I would be entitled to that commission, or at least part of that commission. Moving forward to Part B. Part B basically explains everything that I went over in Part A in detail. Exclusive buyer brokerage agreement Basically, like I said before, the buyer hereby agrees to hire the broker to act as the buyer's exclusive real estate broker in locating and, to the extent requested by the buyer, negotiating the purchase or exchange of real property on behalf of buyer, and filling out pre-printed form contract for buyer's review and approval. And as you can see, it goes into a little further detail. Basically, I want to represent you, and this document solidifies that. You can see the term, it defines what the term shall be. Like I said, it wasn't for a lifetime situation. It's for a specified amount of time. And hopefully during that time, we do end up going under contract and moving forward towards the closing table. Now, what we talked about in part 3, the agency brokerage, this defines everything that I said as far as the broker's policy on agency. The dual agency disclosures, the designated agency disclosure, no other adverse agency relationships. All that is defined on this page here. We went over the commission and how those situations are set up. One thing that I didn't mention when in regards to the commission is, you see it right here, the commission on property sold for sale by owner. Now, for sale by owners are just what it says, FSBOs. They're property owners that figure or want to, test the market and test their hand at trying to unload their property on their own, hoping to get the best return, on their investment. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't, but I definitely don't knock for sale by owners for at least, making the attempt to do so on their own. It's a beautiful situation. Why not recoup some of the monies that you've put into a property? But sometimes it does get a little overwhelming, and that's where, agents such as myself come in. We went over the separate commission on lease, the protected period. That's a big part. I'm gonna go ahead and read this one, even though I previously stated it. The protected period shall be the period of time set forth in this agreement, commencing upon the expiration of this agreement, or what would have been the expiration of this agreement had it not been unilaterally terminated by the buyer, during which the broker shall be protected for its commission and or leasing commission as applicable. Basically, we go into an agreement, the BBA, we sign it, we show what the protected period, we acknowledge what the protected period is. During that protected period, during the course of looking for a property, or we find a property and mysteriously you want to terminate the agreement and it's not mutual between both of us, should you go out and purchase that same property, then I would be definitely entitled to the commission or a part of the commission. All right, moving on to C, other terms and conditions, the broker's duty to the buyer. It explains word for word what you can expect from me. Broker's sole duty to the buyer shall be to make all disclosures required by law. Attempt to locate property suitable to the buyer for purchase, and comply with the applicable laws in performing in duties hereunder, including the brokerage relationship and the real estate transaction, and also to assist to the extent requested by the buyer in negotiating the terms and filling out the pre-printed materials for the sale agreement. Now, that's just basically letting you know as a buyer or as a client what to expect from me at me or any agent that you are represented by here in Georgia in black and white. There's no other way around it. But on the flip side, there are duties that you the buyer or client, should adhere to. And those are lined out as follows as well. Just like a client can, hire and fire us, by us entering into this agreement, we basically are hiring you as a client. And you have things that you have to uphold as well. Those things are to include: be reasonably available to see the property with the broker or property for which the broker has arranged the buyer to see. Basically, self-explanatory. If I say we're going to see 123 Main Street at 5 o'clock on tomorrow, here it is 4:45, and you say, oh, I can't make it. Next day, same thing, can't make it. Not a good deal on your part. Be timely, respond to communications from the broker. If I text you, email you, what have you, I don't expect you to drop what you're doing and respond back in, within 30 seconds, a minute, whatever. But, be sensible about the time very quickly. In a fast-paced market, homes move, very quickly. Excuse me. And I would hate for, a missed call, a missed email, or a missed text to be the deciding factor in, you getting the home that you love. You provide the third thing would be provide the broker with accurate and complete information. This is a big one right here. Inspect and become familiar with any property that the buyer contracts you to purchase, including but not limited to potentially adverse conditions and conditions of special concern to the buyer relating to the physical condition of the property in which buyers becomes interested, any improvements located thereon, and the neighborhood surrounding such property. In a nutshell, you have to do your due diligence as well. You see what I'm saying? You're putting your trust in the agent that you are hiring, but don't rely on that solely. You should also do your due diligence. Go check out the neighborhood that you like at 6, 7, 8 o'clock at night, 10 o'clock at night, to see what's going on. How do the streets look? Is it full of cars? Are people hanging out outside on the corners? Or do you hear loud music, loud disturbances or whatever the case may be at different hours? Don't just go that one time when you saw it and, leave it at that. Go at different times up into the closing situation, or up until the point where you get to the closing table, or during your due diligence period. That's what I should say. Up until the point of the end of your due diligence period. If you have a 10-day due diligence period, check it out on different days. That would be a telltale sign if you really like that property or not, or is it a right fit for you. Another thing would be carefully read all the terms of all disclosures, reports, and contracts to purchase, and comply with the duties and deadlines contained therein. Many, many times we've had people call, or I've spoken with people that said that they didn't even know that they've been in HOA communities, or they didn't know this, or they didn't know they have to do that. At the end of the day, it falls on the buyer, right? But also your agent should be disclosing those type of situations to you, or that information to you especially when it comes to HOA communities and the CC&Rs and stuff like that. But you as the buyer should be reading everything that you sign, all the documents that you get from a closing table or whatever the case may be. All right. F, it says work exclusively with the buyer and not with any other real estate agent or licensee, real estate broker or licensee. Basically, this is what this agreement is for, the BBA. Disclose to the broker at the commencement of this agreement whether the buyer previously worked with any other real estate brokers real estate broker and the addresses of the properties if any buyer made an offer to purchase, or which buyer may owe a commission to another broker if the buyer now purchases. That's basically explaining if you were in agreement with somebody else and it went away or terminated in the terms that it terminated on. If I were to start showing you properties and I show you a property that was that was shown by that previous agent, if it falls under that agent's protected period, then I could very well have to pay them part of my commission on some level. And that's definitely not a good thing. The last thing would be not to contact or see a property listed for sale by owner without first giving the broker a reasonable opportunity to contact the owner and attempt to enter into an agreement with the owner to pay my commission, broker's commission, should the buyer purchase the owner's property. That's simply saying, even though you're supposed to do your due diligence, if you happen to see a for sale by owner that you want to take a look at, or that you want some information on, or whatever the case may be, reach out to your agent, reach out to me if I'm your agent, and let me do all the questioning when it comes to that property, because that could fall in a situation where they're not even willing to work with the buyer's agent and not willing to pay a commission. And at that point in time, my commission would then fall on you as the buyer. And that falls under what we talked about up here in the commission section. 5, we have disclosures. Broker agrees to keep the confidential all information which buyer asks to be kept confidential by express request or instruction, unless the buyer permits such disclosures by subsequent word or conduct, or such disclosure is required by law. Any information that you want me to withhold, as long as it's not something that I legally can't, as long as it's not something that I legally can't withhold, then I am obligated to do so. Now, with that said, broker may not knowingly give false information. In the event of a conflict between the broker's duty to give false information and the duty to keep the confidence of the buyer, the duty not to give false information shall prevail. We are governed by a code of ethics that every agent in the state of Georgia should follow. But of course, with all things, some laws are broken. But you can expect me to plan on keeping my license for a long time, and by me giving false information to anybody, that's not gonna fly. Let me see, disclosure of potential fraudulent activities. To help prevent fraud in real estate transaction, buyer does hereby give the broker permission to report any suspicious, unusual, and or potentially illegal fraudulent activity, including but not limited to mortgage fraud. If you trying to hustle me, and unbeknownst to myself, I catch wind of it, then yeah, I gotta report you. I'm sorry. I'm not going to jail or losing my license for no commission in any amount. My freedom worth more than that. And just to give a quick story, I think I may have been in that situation. I had a listing that I was in charge of, and for some reason I kept getting calls from what's those things called, like some kind of foreclosure situation, long story short. But of course that wasn't disclosed in the beginning, so I'm thinking I had a a nice little listing, free and clear. And come to find out, they were in foreclosure, or she was in foreclosure, should I say. And the people were coming around, checking the house and leaving stuff on the door. And I'm trying to, contact her and let her know, my client, that, what's going on. And she kind of brushes it off and says she's looking into it and she's already talked to this person and that person. But long story short, the property didn't stay listed with me. It expired, and I think someone else ended up getting it, but there was termite damage and all type of stuff, known and seen termite damage. And basically, I guess they just put a band-aid on it or whatever, and put it back on the market and got it sold. Someone has some interest in it, and I think somebody did buy it, but I'm not sure as to who. I'm not sure as to who it was, but hey, it is what it is. All right, moving on to number 7. Some miscellaneous items that you should definitely go over. H is a big one, the fair housing disclosures. M, that's another good one. Notices between buyer and broker. Should definitely pay attention to that. 9 is definitely a major item to pay attention to. Warning to buyers and sellers: beware of cyber fraud. Fraudulent emails attempting to get the buyer and/or seller to wire money to criminal computer hackers are increasingly common in real estate transactions. And as you can see, it goes into quite some detail. I always tell my clients, once we enter into the BBA, as we move forward towards to the closing table, to not send any money, wire any money to anybody, respond to any email asking about money, any information or whatever the case may be, if it's not verified by myself, or whoever the lender may be. Too many times I've seen where an email comes through where they need to wire X amount of dollars to this person or that person in regards to the sale or whatever, and it had nothing to do with the sale. Should something like that happen, basically you're going to be out of that money, unless your bank recoups it for you or whatever. But when it comes to monies paid during the transaction, the only money that you will pay during the transaction is in the beginning. That would be your earnest money, and you'll have a time frame to do that. So, and once that's paid, of course, there should be no more requests for anything like that. And the money that you have to take to the closing table, should that be a situation where monies have to be brought to the closing table. And of course, that would be something that's verified by myself, or should be verified by your agent, or whoever your lender may be. Number 10, lastly, the brochures. The following brochures and exhibits have been received by the buyer. These are basically some reading materials that you can read at your own leisure, explaining some of the various situations that deal with purchasing a home. You have the ABCs of agency, the lead-based pamphlet if you were purchasing a home that was built prior to 1978, a mold pamphlet, EPA and the Home Buyer's Seller's Guide, protecting yourself when buying real property, what to consider when buying a home in a community with HOA. This document right here, this is a document that you should always, well, this is a document that you need to pay attention to, because sometimes homeowners don't even know that they live in an HOA community, or it wasn't brought to their attention at the closing table or whatever the case may be. This is something that you really need to pay attention to, and you should always receive your CC&Rs at the closing table from your agent, or prior to, when you get the clear to close. That's when you should be requesting the CC&Rs of the HOA community. Then you have what to consider when buying a home in a condominium. Protect yourself when buying a home to be constructed. This is basically information about new construction homes. What buyers should know about flood hazard areas, and flood insurance. Flood insurance is extremely expensive. Should you need flood insurance? But that is something that you should know, or you would want to know prior to actually getting to the closing table, or prior to leading up to the closing table, because it can be very expensive depending on the area. And the last one would be what buyers and sellers should know about short sales and distressed properties. Should you be buying an abandoned property or anything of that nature? So, in a nutshell, when your agent asks you to sign this document, hopefully this video has made you a little bit more comfortable with the situation, and now you realize that it's not the boogeyman, for lack of a better term. Everything can basically be negotiated as far as time frames and whatnot. The next time you reach out to an agent, or the next time I ask you to, or if I ask you to, or when I ask you to, should I say, it shouldn't seem like a what's the word? It shouldn't seem so taboo. You want to protect yourself. I want to protect myself. I want to ensure that I am governing myself accordingly, so that we can have a smooth transition onto the closing table. I hope this video has provided some value to you, and as always, if you haven't already, go ahead and like the video, subscribe to the channel, go ahead and tap that bell so you'll be notified when the next video drops. And until the next one, always trying to build my brand one relationship at a time. Next time, I hope I can build that with you.